So as you can see, James Brown thinks it's a man's world. He also knows that it wouldn't be anything without a woman. Hello everyone, my name is Larissa Brown and my oral presentation will be on gender and disasters. First, I would like to go through and explain the differences between gender and sex. These are two words that you guys may know but are often intertwined while doing research. Gender refers to women and men roles and responsibilities that are socially determined. It can also be defined as socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that society considers appropriate for a person based on his or her assigned sex at birth. Sex can be described as it is important because understanding gender differences and inequalities will improve the effectiveness and efficiency of emergency management associations throughout the world. I'm not going to lie to you guys, my research did tend to lean more towards a woman's perspective more than a man's, because women are more likely to suffer sexual abuse after disasters and they are more vulnerable than men. So when a disaster hits, it's usually the woman that suffers more. During disasters, the rescue process has merely been women and children first, or what's commonly known as WCF. What this means is that whenever a disaster occurs, um, there are always people who are making sure that the women and the children are safe. The men are always thought about last because they're typically looked at to be stronger. Expected norms, values, and beliefs. Society has already placed expectations on each specific gender and how they should act along with what they are expected to do. According to society, women are there to maintain order in the household. She is expected to prepare meals, maintain hospitality by keeping the house clean, and take care of the children, while the men are expected to go to work and make the money and literally bring home the bacon for the women to cook. I would like to bring you guys' attention to the 4 phases of emergency management. I'm pretty sure you guys know them like the back of your hand, but I want to kind of give you a visual of what direction I was going with this presentation. First, we'll start with mitigation. We know that it's a method of prevention. It's used to reduce or eliminate the risk to people and property from such hazards and their effects. So, as in reference to women, I think the government should start planning for women by looking through a gender lens, because there are specific needs that will be necessary for women, but not needed for men. Many responders are not trained to look through a gender lens. Most first responders are only trained to rescue, to save people. But for disaster purposes, there should be some form of training on caring for women during and after disasters. The next one is preparedness. Preparedness is a state of readiness to respond to a disaster or crisis, or any other emergency. As far as women, there should be shelters specifically for women, at least one. I'm not saying that we need 40 shelters for women all over the state, but what I am saying is that for those women who have specific needs, or think about the single mothers, I would think that they would want to be somewhere where there are a lot of people that share more things in common than just a disaster. Women are naturally more vulnerable than men during disasters. They should be informed on all evacuation plans that will allow them to remain safe at all times. The next one is response, and that can be defined as responding safely to an emergency. That's a more dry definition, but I'm sure you guys know the meat of it. It provides rescue options, locations for food, the prevention of spreading diseases, and etc. Those who have specific needs may not receive the care that they need if the response mission does not fall through. It is intended to go upward, such as a ladder, starting from the local level onto state and lastly onto the federal government. And I would like to point out that response is referred to as immediate action to protect property and meet basic needs to those people in situations that need immediate care. We have women and we have men, but we also can't forget about transgender. Those people have special needs as well. They need their vitamins, they need their medicine. Women who are pregnant, women who are on their menstrual, they need certain things that men do not need at all. So we need some type of way to respond to women and disasters, and it can't just be any response. It has to be effective and it has to be efficient. Lastly, we have recovery. Recovery involves decisions that are geared towards restoring order and permanently repairing and rebuilding destroyed cities and reducing vulnerability. During recovery, women will have an increased workload. On top of societal norms that were already placed on women, now she has to find materials to improvise on what little she does have. She has to compete with others for resources, which can ultimately cause stress and tension. And while men can simply find employment rebuilding or doing construction within the town. So I would like to point out here that women are quickly pushed back into gender roles. The actions that we stated earlier, as far as taking care of the children, making sure the house is clean, making sure dinner is prepared, those things are expected. She's expected to continue to do those things. She doesn't receive a mental break as the men does, and it can be a lot stressful on women. Recovery is usually referred to as long-lasting effects, such as response was referred to as immediate action. This one is a little on the opposite side. It's usually the most expensive form. So here are just a few things for you guys to think about in reference to gender and disasters. Although my project geared more towards women, I would also like to point out that men are vulnerable as well. Those men who can't jump back into society how they were before the disaster occurred, those men are vulnerable when they can't bring home the bacon, quote unquote, when they can't go out and find places to do construction or to rebuild and get paid for it. That's stress and tension for him as well. He has a lot of weight on his shoulder to take care of his family, and if he can't do that, it causes a lot of tension between him and his mental state. Also, I know I mentioned transgenders earlier. I would like to point out that those people are really looked past during this process. No one really thinks about them. Um, During all four phases of emergency management, there wasn't a lot of research on transgenders, and I think that for transgender people and women to be considered into these processes, it will make them feel a lot more appreciated, and it will their response towards the government and the government's actions during disasters will improve. Feminine products should be offered at each shelter, no matter if there are women there or not. That may be a better option than for women to have their own shelter, but I can't imagine women sharing shelters with men when they're on their menstrual, and bathroom situations. Everything is just completely different when looking at women and men. Some solutions are to get these officers gender trained. Send them to training how to care for women, how to you know check the vitals of a woman, how to apply bandages, how to put those things on women that they need. Equal representation and participation in decision making and planning, women should be included into that. Avoid making women feel neglected in this process. And develop gender accountability measures so that the next time a disaster happens, we have something to compare it to. We have some type of measure, and we have some type of data that's gonna allow us to look at what we did last time. How can we improve? How can we make it better?